My Girl Life podcast is sponsored by Glamour Boutique. Glamour Boutique is the leading name in cross-dressing fashion and lifestyle with a physical location in New Jersey and, of course, their famous website. Be sure to use your My Girl Life discount code MGL15. And listen, I know they have your best interests at heart, so check them out. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Tuck and Tell. Tuck and Tell is a solo video version of My Girl Life podcast. Today, I'm going to answer some questions that Glamour Boutique had asked me as part of a blog article they're putting together, which is going to come out in about a week. And I thought to enhance that and supplement it, I would just answer the questions live and kind of elaborate a little bit more and bond that with the blog article. So here we go. The first question they asked me was, previously I had discussed how self-acceptance was a key part of making cross-dressing a positive experience for me. And they asked, what was the turning point for me for fully embracing Maddie as part of my life? And I'd have to say, when I started going out in public and then making friends as Maddie, these two things really made it real, made me feel like Maddie was a real person with real friends and real things to do, obligations, accountability, just like you would in regular life with other people. And it also removed a lot of shame and guilt associated with the dressing. I also think my passability, if that's a word, was a big part of it. So the better I got at my dressing and creating the illusion of a female, naturally my confidence went up. And then the acceptance of the general population. And when I say general population, I mean all non-LGBTQ people. When I started making friends, that added a whole nother level of confidence because I felt like I was less Maddie, less of a cross-dresser, and more just like Maddie, the regular person hanging out with regular people. So I think that was a big part of the confidence. The second question they asked, I had mentioned a big theme in one of my episodes was self-acceptance versus self-rejection. And they asked how I navigated those moments of doubt or fear or judgment, particularly before reaching the level of confidence that I have today. So I think not taking myself too seriously has been helpful. Even to this day, sometimes I just laugh at myself, like a moment of leaving my body and looking at myself and thinking, what the fuck am I doing? However, those moments are few and far between. They're very short-lived. And I think being confident and emotionally balanced as a person prior to cross-dressing is a big help and a big indicator as to how you're going to handle your cross-dressing. So I guess my advice would be make sure you're well balanced in general, because the dressing is only going to add to the stress, the doubts, the pressure on you feeling good about what you're doing. And then once you get over the hump, it actually enhances the confidence. But I think you got to get over that hump. So I think if you're a balanced person and you know yourself and you feel good about yourself, I think that will be a shorter journey to get over that hump of being really confident in your dressing. I will say, though, at times when I have the most doubts or self-rejection, it's when I've spent a lot of time with friends and family who don't know about Maddie, who are living the life that I used to live, the life that I thought was what made people happy. Things like making a lot of money and fancy cars and big houses, etc. And then I found a deeper well when I started to embrace my girl life. In fact, I did a whole episode on finding a deeper well in cross-dressing. The episode is titled Cross-Dresser, Maddie Taylor Bears Her Soul. I found a deeper well in cross-dressing. That's on my YouTube channel. The third question they asked was, how has my perception of cross-dressing evolved over time? If I could give advice to my younger self when I first started dressing, what would I say? Which is a great question. And after thinking about it, I think I would say to my younger self, get involved with the cross-dressing and trans community early on, because connecting with others on Facebook, for me, was a game changer for Maddie. The ability to make so many friends, connections, learning about events like TGR and Wildside, both of those are in Vegas, I haven't been to any of the other events, but there's other events all over the country. And those for me were life changers. And I know for other people, those events were definitely game changer, life changers for them. And I think that was a big part of it. I would also tell myself that what I'm feeling and what it all means to me will change, and it'll change for the better. The shame will dissipate and it'll evolve into something beautiful and fulfilling. So I hope that for everybody, but just hang in there, be yourself. And I think if you just hang on to that through your journey, you're going to be better off. The fourth question they ask, I had mentioned that the binge and purge cycle, which many cross-dressers experience, they asked, what advice would you give someone currently struggling with this cycle? And first of all, I would say do not throw your girl stuff away. Put it all in a box, hide it if you have to, because odds are you're going to want to go back to that box of items. I can almost promise you are. Dressing is very addictive. In fact, that's what that podcast episode, I think they got a lot of this from. Dressing can be very addictive, especially in the beginning. Just like anything else that is, new and exciting, it's easy to get addicted to it. And let me add here that I think the term addiction has more layers to it than just plain bad. I think there are healthy addictions, and maybe it's just a matter of semantics. But you could use terms like driven, devotion, enthusiastic, absorbed, et cetera, and that would be thought of as healthy, right? Positive. So just like almost anything else in life, rarely is it black and white. It's usually a spectrum. And knowing where you are on that spectrum, I think, is key. I think that if your dressing is a healthy expression of yourself, the extreme excitement will taper off just a bit, like anything else that is exciting and causes rushes of dopamine and serotonin. By the way, this is what is called hedonic adaptation. Hedonic means pleasure, and adaptation means getting used to new stimuli. And we all experience this to some degree or another, like with a new relationship or driving a brand new car or going to a new place repeatedly. Over time, the thrill and excitement dissipates a little bit, which is normal. And the same goes for cross-dressing. And that doesn't mean it's not exciting anymore. To this day, I've been dressing for years and I've gone out hundreds and hundreds of times. I still get excited and I still get a rush before I walk into, especially a regular bar, a non-LGBTQ bar. Once I'm there, I settle in and I'm having a blast, but it's still very exciting. But I got to say, it's not quite as exciting as those first few outings and maybe even the first year or so. It doesn't give out the same high as when it was new to your brain. So just be aware of that. It's nothing bad. It's just natural. The next question they asked me with regards to many cross-dressers struggling with guilt, especially if they feel the dressing is taking up too much time, energy, or focus away from other parts of life. They asked me, what would I say to someone who is questioning whether their cross-dressing is still in a healthy place? And I think that is a very personal call, right? Obviously. I covered this in an episode. Review this bullet point list. I'll put it up here. And be brutally honest with yourself, or maybe do it with a good friend who can be honest with you. And if you can identify with any of the attributes that are negative, that have an addiction type quality, analyze which ones and to what degree they are affecting your life, and then make adjustments. But I think being self-aware is half the battle. I think a lot of us walk around and we're just not self-aware of what we're doing. We just go through the motions and do it automatically. I tend to maybe be too self-aware, maybe think too much. So you can go the other way, right? There's always a happy medium, but knowing where you are on that spectrum, I think is good, because nothing's either absolutely non-addictive or very addictive. It's usually somewhere in the middle. You struggle to control the urge or spend excessive amounts of time and resources on it. If you feel anxiety, guilt, shame, or emotional pain afterward, and then you purge. If it negatively impacts relationships, work, or personal responsibilities, then that's an issue that you definitely need to address. Is it tied to emotional escape or avoidance rather than personal authenticity? Now, this one's a gray area, because I can say for me, honestly, it's an escape. even if it's for a few hours. I would say it's an escape, not a complete escape. I'm not escaping from something I don't like my boy life. I love my boy life. So I'm not escaping from something bad. I'm just escaping from just general life stuff. And I think that can be very healthy as long as it's controlled and it's temporary. Just like escaping to a vacation or your favorite camping spot, hike, meditation, or whatever. We all need temporary escapes. So, to keep us sane and to keep us balanced. So I think you get the idea. If you're unable to make those positive adjustments, then maybe therapy would be warranted. And again, I said before, I think the world would be a better place if everybody had access to therapy on a regular basis. But again, like I said earlier, being self-aware is half the battle, if not more. So pay attention to what you're doing and why you're doing it. Next, they said there's often a fear in the cross-dressing community that dressing will always feel like a secret or a hidden part of life. And they asked me, what do you think is the best way for someone to move from secrecy to openness, even if only within themselves? And my answer was, first of all, knowing that there are probably millions of like-minded people doing the same thing or similar things. Society has a way of making us think that there's one model way to live our lives and anything else is deviant. And that's not good. That's not human nature. That's people controlling you. That's people trying to control the environment. Those people are afraid. They're afraid of something different. And we're going through that big time right now in our country. Spend some time reading about the psychological aspects of cross-dressing. I think it's fascinating. I've done a ton of reading. And like I've said before, I've figured out some of the reasons why I dress, some of the reasons I haven't, and probably never will. But sometimes being able to identify something or give it a name to it can help normalize it, what would otherwise be something thought of as shameful. Autogynephilia is one. I know it's a controversial theory, and I don't believe all of that theory. I believe that the first part of it, which I think is the main part, is you embody the object of your desire, which I know I was doing in the beginning, and I still think I do that to a degree. And it was more sexual than anything. Then I discovered the term gender envy, and I think that, at least for me now, that fits even better because when I see a woman, would I like to be with her? Yeah, I'd like to be with her, but there's a big part of me that wants to be her, and that's gender envy. And I think that, as I've progressed in my journey, I think that applies to me more than the autogynephilia part. Although it still does turn me on to dress like a woman and be sexy, and that's still an element that hasn't gone away. But I think the gender envy thing is the bigger part of it. But the point is, I learned that from reading and watching documentaries and just looking into it. I think that helps people when you can identify something, when it has a name. It makes it real and normalizes it for you and helps you better deal with it. Another thing to do is learn about gender variations in nature. And I think that extends to human beings because we're part of nature. So that was helpful. I will say, however, if there's not a stable foundation in terms of emotional well-being, then adding something like cross-dressing to that can be hard to handle. So again, working on yourself as a person by reading, researching, watching documentaries, basically educating yourself on how our brain works, I think it'll help you cope with cross-dressing and many other things in life for that matter. And lastly, you can still connect with people online and establish relationships and support, even if you're dressing alone at home and not going out in public. I had started going out in public a little bit, but when I got on Facebook and started making friends, it opened up a whole new world, and it really was a game changer. And of course, those friends are not the same as friends that you see in person and that you get close to, but you can bond and connect with people on Facebook quite a bit. And then when you do go out to some of these events, you feel like you already know the person. You have some things in common. There's some camaraderie, and you feel like you know them, and it makes it much easier to approach them. And well, you don't have to even approach them when you're at an event. You hug them. You say, I'm glad to meet you. And again, it's very natural. So I think being online, we have such a luxury of having the internet and being able to connect with hundreds, if not thousands of people doing the same thing, it's a luxury, and I think you should take advantage of it. Our sisters, prior to the internet, a lot of people thought they were the only ones in the entire world doing it. They didn't have the ability to make those connections, so take advantage of it. So that's it for today. Hopefully that's helpful. And remember, be bold, be kind, be you.